welcome to another episode of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I am Gary Mack, and I'm joined, as always, by the great, the wonderful, the often imitated but never duplicated Mr. Rich Baxter. Rich, how are you this week?
Doing great, Gary. How about yourself?
I am just dandy rich. We've had such a week in baseball. Even the last couple of days, it's been pretty exciting with suspensions and strikeouts and a no hitter. I know you don't want to talk about it, but we have the first no hitter of the season. The Mets got a combined no hitter against your Philadelphia Phillies, 159 pitches. That's a lot of pitches.
It's a lot
Uh,
of pitchers.
that would just somebody's arm would fall off if they threw that many. So good thing it was five guys, but still counts as a no hitter, and it's pretty exciting, Rich.
Yes, it's very exciting. Congratulations to the Mets. It's such a rarity, too. Almost like our last show. I don't want to lie to our listeners. We went through a whole show and forgot to hit record. So this is our second take on this week's show. So we're well rehearsed in it. But
Yeah.
those things happen. I mean, I did it a couple weeks ago with the Phillies Talk one. Thank God I was streaming it live. It was all recorded on YouTube, but it's just one of those things. One of those things
Yeah,
like the Phillies
it's
couldn't hit the baseball the other night.
and not for lack of trying. I mean, they went. There was a lot of full counts, and they were very patient at the plate. It just when they hit it, it went to a fielder, and those kind of things, those no hitters and stuff. There's a lot of luck involved too. Uh, and great defense. Nimmo made a really nice play in the third inning, I think it was, a diving catch out in right center. So there's a lot of luck and some skill involved in it. So
Yeah, combination no hitter. Of course, the first Mets no hitter came only 50 years after the Mets came into existence with Johan Santana. And I remember that game back in 2012. I wasn't watching it live, but I remember hearing the hoopla around it.
yeah, and there was some controversy. There was a ball that really looked like it was a fair ball, kicked up some chalk, and they called it foul. Um, that was on the down the left field line. That would have broken it up. So there was some controversy in that game, and of course, uh, he threw a lot of pitches, not as many as this game required. But he did it by himself. But you weren't going to take him out when he was that close to history, throwing a no hitter in the first in Mets history. And the Mets are going to honor him this year, as a matter of fact, as the 10th anniversary comes around. So that should be pretty cool. But it happens, and this is the 17th combined no hitter in MLB history. So, uh, as you said, it's a rare thing, but for the Mets, it's even rarer, and we'll take it. We'll take anything
Yeah.
we can get. That's how we are. Rich, moving on. This Trevor Bauer thing has continued to uh, haunt us, I guess you could say. He's been suspended for two full seasons by Major League Baseball following the league's investigation of domestic violence and sexual assault allegations made against him. He will not receive any pay. He has been getting paid up to this point, but he will not receive any pay beginning the past Friday, and the suspension does not include the 99 regular season games that he has missed so far after being placed on administrative leave on July 2nd, 2021. He will appeal, he said, the 324 game suspension, no longer ever issued for someone who violated the MLB, MLP, BPA, Joint Domestic Violence, Sexual Assault, and Child Abuse Policy. Um, the interesting thing about this, Rich, it's one of these he said, she said cases. She said she was attacked and assaulted, and he said it was consensual. MLB obviously is considering it, I guess, as domestic violence. The LA District Attorney's Office or the LA County District Attorney's Office does not. They came right out and said that they will not prosecute on criminal charges. So it's hard to know who to believe in these situations, but Bow is out pending until his suspension, until his appeal is heard, and we see what the results of the appeal is.
Yeah, and that's the important part. Like you said, there was no charges. DA declined to press charges on Bauer, so I didn't really stay in touch with this story the whole time, but I just followed it, from an observer's viewpoint. He still strongly denies the allegations. Um, that's all that I know about it. Of course, hard to believe that a 2-year suspension without any charges being pressed. So um, the MLB has a real strong public presence, so they would face a lot of scrutiny on any allegation, but maybe they went too far, maybe they didn't. I don't know the facts of the story, but just the fact that you said there's no charges means a lot.
And yeah, they passed this policy apparently a few years ago with the union, and the policy. Let me see if I get this right now. In other words, they can suspend somebody even if there is no pending criminal charges against them. So, which I don't know if you want to say that sounds fair or not, but they can do it and they have done it, and we'll see what the suspension entails. I don't know what the appeal. Who does he appeal to? Who he is? Is there a board at the MLB and the MLBPA? Is it a court? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happens next, but he's gonna appeal it, and we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and the Phillies know that firsthand. Of course, one of their players, Odubel Herrera, faced a suspension from the MLB for a similar matter that happened in Atlantic City. The Phillies were off one weekend in the summer a couple years ago, and there was an altercation. Who knows how it started? Did Odubel want to leave and his girlfriend want to stay? I don't know, but in the end, the charges were dropped. Um, there was no criminal activity by Odubel, but yet there's still a segment of fans that would prefer him not to be on the Phillies to this day. They don't care what happened. They're just passing judgment saying, he shouldn't be on the team. So you've got a big social media presence out there that stares down on these things, though they don't know the whole facts either, and they have opinions.
Yeah, that's it. And a lot of these cases, you never really know the fact. Um, as we said, she says it wasn't consensual. He says it was. So, who do you believe? I mean, it's such a difficult case. So tough to figure out.
Yes, indeed. Well, um, one thing's for sure, the appeal has been placed, and now we'll hear about it some more over the next 6 months or so that the season goes on, and we'll see what happens.
You almost have to feel sorry for the. I don't, but you almost have to feel sorry for the Dodgers, who went out and signed him to a big contract and 2-year deal. Thank God it was only 2 years, and now you know, they have they don't have the use of his services, but they're not going to have to pay him. I guess the question is that how does that count against the salary cap? Does it count? I don't think it should. I don't know if the Mets last year it counted against the salary cap for Cano when he was suspended. Um, the way he's playing this year, we kind of hope he gets suspended again so they can void the contract. But, like I said, it's a tough thing to call, and we'll just have to see how it all plays out with his appeal.
Yes, we will. And of course, on our last segment, there was a pitcher that pitched with him in UCLA, not a big fan of his, and said he sort of operates on his own level, so to speak, to take his words out of context. But maybe there is something to it. We don't know.
Maybe possibility exists. And but one of his other teammates had a special moment last night in Dodger Stadium when Clayton Kershaw struck out Spencer Torkelson. Say that 3 times fast. And he became the most. How do I want to word this here? He passed Hall of Famer Don Sutton for the most career strikeouts in Dodgers franchise history. Kershaw did. Sutton had held the record since 1979 when he passed on Drysdale, who was now third on the franchise's all-time strikeout list. Kershaw had 7 strikeouts in 6 innings last night, raising his career total to 2,700 and becoming the 26th in AL and MLB history to reach that number. So, congratulations to Clayton Kershaw, who seemed to have revived himself after struggling last year, and definitely a potential Hall of Famer, Rich.
Yeah, and oddly enough, they lost to the Detroit Tigers in that game 5-1. But Kershaw said, quote unquote, it's special after producing another solid outing in the Dodgers rotation. And that record from Don Sutton spanned 5 decades. So a long time there. Finally, somebody stayed with the Dodgers long enough to break it.
Yeah.
And as we said during the previous take on our program, he agreed to the 1-year, $17 million contract this year to stay a Dodger and keep them in some sort of spending mode, able to afford them.
Yeah, and as we also said, he's in line for comeback player of the year, I guess, because he's pitching a lot better. He struggled a lot last year, had some injuries, and this year seems to be back on top of his game. So good for him. It's good for the game. He's a good guy. He's a terrific pitcher, and you don't want to see guys deteriorate so much that they're a shell of what they used to be. But uh, you know, it, yeah, he last night wasn't the perfect night, but he pitched pretty good, and we'll see. That team's loaded, so they're liable to make a run at everything, holding down second place now with the Giants in first by a half a game, I think.
Yeah, amazing stuff there for Kershaw. Getting back to the Phillies and the Mets, of course, they're on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball tonight. And for anybody out there that listens to our show that haven't seen both teams, you're going to see them a lot if you watch ESPN because it'll
Yeah,
be on May
that's for
29th
sure.
as well. And the Phillies and the Mets, Gary, I guess you know this, they play each other 13 times, I believe, to the end of May. Only 6 games remain between them after May, the May series, the final May series at the end of
Right.
the month. So
Yeah, that's
amazing.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, they
Um,
didn't spread this one out very well.
yeah, it's nuts because they're in their division and it's going to be, I think, a tight division. They're going to be contending with the Phillies, and it looks like the Marlins are for real. They're playing some good baseball. Um, yeah, I mean, he and the Mets played the Phillies, what, 5 times already? 5 or 6, and they haven't even seen the Marlins yet. So,
Yeah.
or Atlanta. Now Atlanta's coming in tomorrow, so that'll be the first time the Mets have seen Atlanta. But they'll have 6 games or so in with the Phillies, and haven't even seen two of the other contenders in the league. So in the division. So it's kind of crazy in a way the way they lay out these things, and especially since they're Northeast teams, both of them. You would
Yeah.
think this early in the year that they would try to have them play the Southern teams more or the dome stadiums more than play another Northeast team where the chance of a rain out is more prevalent.
Yeah, and the weather isn't now it hasn't been optimal yet,
Yeah,
but yeah, the Mets will be in town for Philadelphia for a 4 game series next week, starting on
next weekend.
Thursday night. So they're going to get it out of their system early here.
I guess so.
But interesting the way that schedule balances out. And the fact that the Mets were hit the most of any team in baseball and hit, as we said again during the previous show, in the head a few times. I did go back and watch some of the video that I didn't see initially. I heard the headlines, but I didn't see the
Right.
pitches. And some of them to me didn't seem to be um, on purpose, although a major league pitcher shouldn't be throwing and hitting your head.
Yeah, and they've had 3 guys hit in the head. Luckily, they've been pretty glancing blows, but still, it's a little frightening when you see it. Lindor got hit in the extra section, and he had a cut on his lip and around, and Alonso got hit uh, in the head, but it was kind of glancing. Um, so that was good, and I think he got hit twice. I think in the head region, and
Yeah,
it's just the fact that it's up high. They don't. And they've been hit so often.
yeah,
That's what calls things into question. So they talk to MLB, and I guess they'll just keep an eye on it and see what happens.
yeah. And for those that don't watch the Mets usually now if there's a close inside pitch, the camera goes right to the manager, and he always has some quizzical manner in which he's tilting his head or staring like he's got these stares that are he's becoming famous for all of a sudden.
Well, I have to tell you, he is a breath of fresh air. He's definitely a much needed change for this franchise. The guy's prepared. He's always taking notes. He's always talking to somebody, um, and instructing, guys. And it's just a refreshing thing to see somebody that's that in charge. And everybody says they may not win every game, but they'll never lose because they're not prepared. He gets them prepared, and I gotta tell you, it's like night and day compared to the last couple of years with some of the managers they had. That's not to denigrate the managers they had. They had young managers, youngish, first time managers, and it just didn't work out the way it should have. Um, the last one especially, I think he was a little skittish, and you can't have that. Buck Showalter is, he's had he's been around so long that he don't, not that he doesn't care, but I don't think, he's been fired, so it doesn't bother him anymore. I go to ESPN then, or I go to the MLB. You know what I mean? He always has something to fall back on. So he doesn't want to be fired, but you just see that he is the man in charge.
It's got a presence about him.
He has a presence, and you see him in charge. And when you see him in the dugout, just on television, it's a completely different dynamic than the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've seen it in Philadelphia. In fact, the first couple weeks of the season, sports radio in Philadelphia was calling for Joe Girardi to be fired because the Phillies were sputtering, couldn't get anything started. It was all pointing towards Joe Girardi. So in the last week or so, he's gotten a little breath of fresh air. Um, Not sure that the management would fire him, but Vegas has him in the top three as being fired first, and things weren't looking good. And when things don't look good, as you said, the manager can pay for it.
The manager go. You can't fire everybody. They say. So usually it's the managers, or if they're not hitting, it's the hitting coach. If they're not pitching, it's the pitching coach. Um, yeah, so that's usually what you see the first off as the manager goes, and it would be a shame. I mean, I bet you can tell the difference too in Philly when Girardi came in compared to Gabe Kapler. Uh, there must have been, a big difference.
There was a difference, but not a huge difference because I don't know. Kapler is younger than Girardi, but I don't know. It just seems like the way Girardi is sometimes, like he's very timid in the dugout. The other night on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, there was a terrible game called by the umpire. Didn't bother Girardi that much. He had to come out after Kyle Schwarber lost his mind over the game and was thrown out, and then Girardi came out. But prior to that, it was just business as usual, and I think that's the kind of manager that Girardi is. Nothing really bothers him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get fired up very much. Maybe he can't fire the team up very much. I don't know, but um, that's what it seemed like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then I take my comment back.
I mean, I think it's the players on the field, especially with the caliber of team that the Phillies have this year, but still the motivation, the presence, like you said, the respect, you know who's in charge type of thing. Now, if you look at Bryce Harper's interviews, sometimes you may think he's in charge because he's been a designated hitter for the past couple of weeks. He's claiming an injury rather, which is what he may have. But he's telling the press, "Oh, I'll be a DH for the next foreseeable future." Oh yeah, I thought you were a player and you weren't the manager, but go back to the films and he's calling the shots.
Now, do you think he enjoys the DH more than playing the field? I always thought he enjoyed playing the field.
I don't think so, but I just thought it was very odd that he's telling the press what he's going to do. Like let the manager make that call. But the way he's been making comments is like, well, I'm making the call on it. I'm going to be the DH every night now. So
Well, I guess when you're making that kind of money, you kind of do make the call when you
I
want
don't
to come
know.
back, and you
I
know.
don't know. I think it's just who's in charge here type of thing, and you generally don't want to show up the manager by saying things like that. If anything, say, well, Girardi wants me to be the DH, not I'm going to be, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just about that presence thing. And speaking of other presence, the Oakland A's was in a war of words with the San Francisco Giants a couple days ago, this past week. The president of the Oakland A's went after the Giants, sent out a tweet with a very sparsely filled stadium and more or less asked, where are all the fans? Well, there happened to be 32,898 fans for that game, and he got called on the carpet because just a week to 10 days ago prior, the team in Oakland drew 2,703 fans and have been drawing about 5,000 fans a night on average, maybe a little bit more, but not much more in Oakland. So, little war on words there between the two West Coast teams.
Yeah, and that that team there is really it's really a shame. They really struggle out there, and it's, you just like to see them do better.
That's for sure. Maybe on the edge of losing their franchise. I think they would follow the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas. Vegas is a hot market now. They're calling for these franchises. They're going to get them. Baseball and the gambling is just, all one now. It seems like you can't watch a baseball game anymore without being pestered with ads to gamble on it. And, I think it's going to be Oakland's going to lose this. The city of Oakland's going to lose that franchise soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's a shame, but they're not coming out and supporting them. And that's what happens. What
Yep.
can you do?
Well, we don't want to drag on too long because, like I said, we had a snafu. Next show we'll go over. We'll be 5 weeks into the season. We'll go over the standings and some other stories, which we always have for you. And we hope you have a great week into May here. I hope it starts warming up in the Northeast.
Please.
Please stop that heater from running.
Please, we want to break out the shorts.
Yep, and a nice cup of iced tea with lemon. I think I might have to go get some for the game tonight.
Yeah, you talked yourself into it now.
It works better than beer because beer you're asleep in an
This is
hour or
true.
two. Yeah,
This
you're
is
just
true. Well, here's what you do: you get yourself the iced tea, and if the fourth inning it's 10-0 Mets, then you grab a couple of beers. Then you don't care if you fall asleep.
that's true. Start off with the iced tea. Hope everybody enjoys the week out there. Sunday night baseball, all that jazz, and you have a great week. You too, Gary.
You too, Rich. See you next time.